I want to make clear to everybody in the chat and to everybody, you know, who's watching. Okay, so we're here to have just a candid, level-headed discussion of like what we saw, what's going on, try to give you guys an understanding like why things are happening the way they are, you know, and things. Okay, what we're not here to do is to try and convince you to like something that you don't like. We're not here to do that. Like, okay, so like I just want to point that out. Okay, we're not here to someone accused us like in the last stream that we were damage control for Bandai, which is like, no, we're not. We're just here to give information and things and just to try and give some clarity, but we're not trying to switch anybody's, convince anybody of anything. You know what I mean? So you are free to do or spend your money the way you want. Whatever you decide for yourself is the right decision for you. Okay? Yeah.
Facts.
So that being said, let's just go right into today's topic. So, look at it. Look, this is what I had planned, guys.
Still a good plan. Still a good plan.
All right, so we might get to it, okay? Because there's a lot of good stuff to cover, you know, and talk about. And I'm very excited. Honestly, I'm very excited for all this stuff. Okay. Now, let's talk about this.
we're starting with the title fight.
Yeah. Okay. What's going on, man, Godzilla? All right, now, okay, let's just go in clockwise. Okay, let me ask everybody to the panels. Okay, for everybody, raise show of hands. Do you like what you see? Raise your hand. Okay.
Can I have? That's a weird question.
All right. Okay.
Right.
Next question. Are you going to get this? Raise your hand. Okay. So I'm the only one.
It depends on my bank account at the time. That's
okay.
For me. Yeah.
Totally.
It would be a yes if I know for a fact that I will have money, but I'm a freelance photographer that comes and goes. So, you know.
Yeah. I totally get it. Yes, and I understand your situation that you know you've had in the past year with your car being stolen and all that. Okay, all right. Now, okay. So for me personally, like when I look at this thing, now number one, okay, I was telling these guys earlier before we before we went live, this character right here, this Shimo character, this character isn't one of those characters that I have emotionally invested in, like Godzilla, for example. You know what I mean? So like if I look at a Godzilla figure, if it looks good, like, you know what I mean? Like I'm very picky when it comes to Godzilla. Oh yeah, this has got to look like this and stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's all well and done. But for this guy, for this figure, this character, not really. Do I think it looks like a good, a nice looking figure? Yes, because I personally don't care whether if it's based on the concept art or in the movie. You know what I mean? As long as it looks good, as long as I can do toy photography with it and stuff like that, that's what I care about. Yeah. Kyle, what about you? What do you say?
Yeah, so I think my biggest issue with the figure is that it's a 6-inch scale figure that is bigger than the 7-inch scale Haya one.
Yeah.
Like I posted a video about this earlier today, and it's like, like what is the brand manager at Toho doing? Approving like these dramatically different sizes for Shimo. Like the price is a consequence of the size of the figure, right? Like we knew when Godzilla Evolved was announced at 140 US. Like we knew Shimo was going to be expensive, but then they blew her up. They made her gigantic, and now it's $250 give or take, right? Like that's my issue with the figure. I'm okay with it being a little bit stylized. I really like the iridescent touch. Like it's a little thing that makes the figure nicer. It's not economic for me to pick up the figure. I think that if it was a little bit smaller, if it was a little bit more affordable, it would be, people wouldn't be as vocal about their distaste for it. I do have problems with the Kong head being included. I don't like that. But I think the conversation has been really vicious.
Yeah, and it's not just vicious towards Bandai. Yeah, Bandai fine, but towards people in the community that want this, that's totally, in my opinion, out of line.
Mm.
You know. So, Nathan, what do you think?
Yeah. Okay. There's a few comments here which I'll in the chat as well, which I'll probably highlight throughout this. Overall, I think, like, okay, I'll preface this by saying I don't really care about this design or character at all. So the whole, am I going to buy it? It's not regardless of the price or the version which we've been given by Monsterarts, right? It's just no interest in it. But looking at, I think, it looks good for Shimo. Like, again, it's kind of hard for me to really say, yeah, it looks amazing, because again, the design from the first place just turns me off. That's just personal preference, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like it has a really nice, maybe pearlescent style finished paint job to it, or that in the molding, same for blue spikes. I can see how that can drive up prices. And someone mentioned in chat it's not even painted. Yeah, but painting on base plastic versus doing, special finishes with the actual molding and plastic, there are price differences there. And sometimes, painting can be cheaper if it's just, base wash and, overlay. So I can definitely see how these small things have really increased the price for this figure.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like it's maybe 6,000-7,000 yen too much to be able to justify, even if I was into it, basically, at least for me.
Sure.
But on the other hand, I feel like the higher one is too cheap. So, like, people are judging these things just
Thankfully,
on the look.
everybody's economic situation. Yeah.
Yeah, but like, if you take that, okay, why is it so cheap? Is it because low quality materials, less articulation, are the joints going to feel like ass? Maybe amazing, but we don't know until we get in hand. And it's same with this. It's a bit too early to judge something until you have in hand, see it in person, play with it. And as Kyle was saying, this is a beast of a figure. About 42 centimeters long, about 18 centimeters high. But yeah. Interesting to see how things go.
What's going on, Michael?
Hi guys, what's going on?
Yo.
Good, buddy.
All right.
Alrighty.
So we're driving right into this, huh?
Yeah.
Welcome to the Thunderdome, Michael.
Oh, you guys,
are you ready?
Yeah. Rob, what are your thoughts?
It's just one of those times where you look at something and it's just, all right, that's it. And that's exactly how I feel. I mean, I feel the same mindset as you. It's just, it's not a monster that I'm connected to in any shape or form. It's not a monster that I would shovel out that kind of money for. But, for what it is, it's like, it looks different to that of the higher version. That's cool. It's going to be a bigger, beefier figure. That's awesome. And I don't know. It just, that's to the extent of which it's like, it's not that it's a nothing burger. It's just, hey, that's cool.
Yeah.
It is what it is. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
It's like going window shopping, essentially.
Yeah, so. Okay. Mike Monsters, what are your thoughts?
I think that it is awesome that we have so many opportunities to buy a Shimo from different people or places. Like, we got Haya, we got Playmates, we got this, we've got Spiral, we've got all these different versions, and anyone can choose what they want to choose. This, I think it looks great. It's not exactly the most accurate, but I'm also one that I don't need accuracy 100% in my figures. It depends on, like you said, Harold, I like to photograph my figures, and sometimes you can make a Playmates toy look just like an S.H.Monsterarts or better, or a statue or something if you light it right. And I think this one with the right lighting, these are very, very product shots. They're not creative. Yeah. There's just a white flat light on there. There is no purple light like some people have been accusing there is on here. We would see a lot more light bleed and light spill on this if there was.
Yeah.
And they they did what they could with what they were given. They were not given the final CG assets. Or at least we're assuming that. And it looks like pretty close to the concept art, minus a few things here and there. And I mean, the only complaint I really have about it is the price. And I'm one that I'll agree. It's a spendy girl right there. She's going to be huge. Which, is she going to be too big? It's going to be hard to tell until we see her next to other figures in the line.
Exactly, because we have. Sorry to interject, Michael. Like we know how big the Playmates is, because like people have it in hand and things like that, right? But like the thing that we're not seeing in these photos is the size of this figure, and I think, and that's the thing that I think people are forgetting. You know what I mean? There's somebody in the chat saying that the Haya is larger. No, it's not.
No, it's smaller. It's too small, in my opinion. Some people are saying it's accurate. The Haya one is accurate to screen size, but I don't think it is. It looks way too small next to Godzilla. She wasn't towering over Godzilla in the movie, but she still wasn't. She was still bigger than him. And I think if we had a photo of like Scar King riding her like he does in the movie, that might give us a better idea of the scale of this figure. But I kind of, like everybody else has said, I loved her in the movie. I'm like really Shimo obsessed right now, and I would love to get this. If I don't, I'm gonna probably get the Haya version, especially for the price. But I wish Haya's was bigger. But I'm not. It's not killing me that this isn't exactly accurate or anything like that. I think the immediate backlash was a little unwarranted, and some folks just really like to throw their arms up in the air and scream and make a scene when there's no actual constructive criticism coming at it. And some people probably won't like me saying that, but it is what it is. And I mean, I used to work for this company. I'm not going to defend them. They have misses, they have hits, and we also know that sometimes they don't have final assets to work off of, and this is an obvious version of that right here. The biggest aggressor for me is the mouth. The mouth is a little too long or big or whatever you want to call it. She doesn't have the cheeks, but
or the flesh.
Exactly. In the concept art, it almost looks like, I'm guessing the sculptor looked at the line where the mouth goes and assumed that that's how far the mouth was supposed to open, because they didn't have the exact final version. So I'm not throwing my arms up in the air about this one. I'm excited to see in-hand photos, especially that iridescence, pearlescence, which is, I'm believing, all over the entire body. It's hard to capture that in a white figure in this kind of lighting. I'm surprised they didn't give us like a detail shot or something like that up close to really give off that pearlescence. But I bet once this thing gets in people's hands, same with the Haya, we're going to find like it might be a brick for the Haya one. It might be really hard to move. It might be the most stiff figure around, or it might be awesome. We just don't know yet. And I think there's a lot of snap judgments. We need to slow down a little bit before we make an opinion on some of this stuff, you know? That's the same thing that happened with Godzilla X Kong. When we got the leaks for the movie and everybody heard about Shimo being used as a weapon, or Godzilla shooting the sky to blast out Shimo's cloudiness and everything like that, people were like, that sounds so stupid. And now it's the most profitable Godzilla and Kong movie ever made.
Yeah.
It's just, we're jumping too quick to conclusions.
Yeah. Michael, what do you think?
There's a lot to unpack with this figure. I think one thing that needs to be cleared up right away, I've seen some people posting about it and negating it. Somebody was screenshotting something that I said, which was, I had confirmation that these figures, particularly Scar King as well as Shimo, they don't use the CGI models. And I did have that confirmation over there with Tamashi. So, but what they did say was that they were using various reference materials from the movie. They didn't go into detail of exactly what those were. So that could range from concept to stills from the movie, but it was a sculptor that was brought in to do both of them. And I think it's important to also give credit to these sculptors. They're basically doing what Yuji Sakai does, where they're not basing it off of 3D data. They're looking at photos. And if we look at this one, I think there's enough evidence to suggest that for Shimo that it's really based off of earlier models than it is what we saw in the final movie. And I think having that knowledge, I think Mike knows about this too. Once when Jared was finished with his Shimo model, this is kind of what it looked like. I think it is what it looked like when he finished it, and then he handed it off to Weta, who made additional adjustments to the model to what we have seen in the movie at present time. So I think that this sculptor who did Shimo did a really good job at capturing based off of what Jared's original design was. So I think there's a lot of similarities there, but there's also some things that aren't necessarily one-to-one to his model. Like it's been pointed out, like the mouth, that slit in the mouth is far more longer than anything that we've seen in any kind of concept art or anything like that. So, and then the waist proportion over by the hind legs, it's definitely skinnier. Even the crystals on the backside, they're actually longer, I would say, than Jared's concept as well that he developed, that we've seen floating around online right now. If we look at that picture, at least, if we're just solely basing it off of that. So I think that the sculptor's taken what he had, and he produced a pretty good likeness. I think when we look at this, we can say it does look like Shimo at the end of the day, right?
Sure.
If the silhouettes there and everything, it's not exactly what we saw in the movie 100%, but I think it serves its purpose. I will admit I'm a bit disappointed myself as a fan because I do like the screen accuracy, and I was really hoping that we would have finished models throughout the whole entire line. But it looks like as far as what's currently announced, only Godzilla uses the actual CG data so far.
Okay.
Kong is we know he's reused. That's Shinzen. That's his model. I have no confirmation of who did Scar King or Shimo. I'm going to see if I can get that information, but that might be locked behind company trade secrets, or maybe perhaps the artists don't want to reveal their information, especially given recent feedback. Maybe they don't want themselves to be known. So we'll see what happens. I'll try my best to get that information for everybody. We got Comic-Con that's coming up. I'll be able to sit down and have a talk with Tamashii R&D. Hopefully, hasn't been cemented just yet, but we're looking to try to arrange something like that so we can get in there and ask the in-depth questions that you're all curious about.
Sure. Okay, cool. Very nice. So yeah, I mean, sorry, sweetie, let me put you down, okay? Yeah, so like I said, like for me, I'm indifferent about like the design and things. Like I just want a good looking figure. And like if you ask me which one do I like more, I actually like the Haya more. I think like it's got way more details based on like what we see here in these photos and things. But like, I don't know. I'm just indifferent. Yeah. But getting back, like the sculpting and the detail is one thing, but the price is a totally different conversation to be had, as you know what I mean? So
the price is, I thought it was going to be at least in the $230 range maximum, with being maybe the $200 price range. But then when I saw it on the website, I was like, oh God, I have to post about this. And then I'm like sitting there, I'm doing the math in my head. I'm looking at this. Okay, so you have your typical people that will just go straight to currency conversion, and they're like, oh yeah, it's $170. It's not so bad, right? But then you go to import. If you import it with that $170, $180, $190, whatever you buy it from, I actually did this with a couple middleman sites just yesterday because they already put them up. Big in Japan was $328 shipped.
Holy shit.
Because this is such a massive figure. And again, I agree with, I forget who said it earlier. This figure is a very, very big figure. It's going to come in a very, very big box, and it's going to have some weight to it. So, Big in Japan, I think they're charging 150, or no. I think it's 150,000 yen for shipping. I think I said that right. Yeah. So it's a lot it's a lot. The currency conversion still acts in our favor because think about that. If this was like the year 2014 right now, we would be spending literally like at least over $400 to ship Shimo over here if we wanted to import. So, and I see a lot of people saying this too.
Yeah.
I see a lot of people saying this too. It's true that sometimes importing can give us an advantage due to currency conversion, but there's two factors to consider. One, is it a general release or is it a web exclusive? If it's a web exclusive, there's middleman markup. So they mark up the price just so they can middleman for you the figure, and then you also have to import it yourself. And if it's a larger figure, shipping is not very kind when it comes to web exclusives. And so far, just this year alone, it's been a little bit more expensive to import. Shimo's a lot more expensive to import than probably what will be here in the United States for its MSRP. I think it's going to be about $250 is what the MSRP is going to be based off of current trends. So we'll see what happens. There's going to be pre-order discounts for E-Night Media. I think they usually go as far as 10% off a figure. So you can do that math right there and see how much that discount would be to get that over here.
Okay, now getting back to like what Nathan asked, like this thing, like why is that highest so cheap? Like that, I think that's a fair question to ask. Why is it so cheap? You know what I mean?
I was kind of wondering. I mentioned this before the stream. I was kind of wondering if they were doing, because actually, first off, this is basically the same price as Godzilla, right?
I think so.
Shimo's $10 more.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
So 20% more.
Okay. Yeah, a little bit more. But yeah, as I mentioned before the stream, I was wondering, are they kind of doing Shimo as their kind of loss leader, right? Because they knew like other companies would be obviously at X amount price, so they try to be, as cheap as possible, even if they're making no money on it, to be able to drum up the business as well, right? I mean, that is one way that companies get market share. They sell at a loss for X amount of time. Once they get the market share, then they can bump up prices because people are already in on their product, their line, their service, whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So, like, it's bigger than Godzilla. It should be more. It looks, at least from the image here, they've done weathering as well. It's not just base plastic. They'll add a little bit more cost. So yeah, I don't know. And numbers as well, right? If you're making lots, price gets cheaper. Figures like play Sky King, Shimo, compared to Godzilla, they're not going to sell as much. They'll be making less. So therefore, I don't know. It just seems a bit too cheap, at least from my point of view. I'd say, maybe 90 would have been about what I would expect.
Yeah.
I don't know. How do you guys feel?
I mean, it's a smaller figure too. It's much smaller than everybody else, it seems like. And
Sure.
And when we don't know what materials were used for it yet, we don't know what it's going to look like in person yet. We've only seen the prototypes. It could show up looking like that Cheeto Rodan we got recently from Haya, or something like that. And yeah, I mean, it's hard to say right now. It looks great though. I think it's just I'm a little skeptical on the in hand. Once we get it in hand, we'll be able to really know. And that's the same with the SH. We just don't know yet. And there was a comment earlier that said there's purple lighting. I will tell you, they're not allowed to use colorful lighting except for in the special stylized shots. They have to use very basic lighting. They're not allowed to do playful things like that in these kind of shots. That purple background is just literally a piece of paper kind of thing. It's not anything. So I can confirm, as someone who used to work for the company and talk to Tamashi a lot, they don't do that kind of thing. It is a pearlescent paint on there, and that's why we're seeing little flecks of purple throughout the thing. And if you get really high detail photos, which you're going to get, Michael, I'm assuming soon, we'll probably be able to see that pearlescence a heck of a lot better.
Either tomorrow or Monday, I'll be able to post them.
Yeah,
Okay.
I get why people want to think it's that, but it's definitely no. Pearlescent paint costs more to use, and so that could be a factor on why the price is a little higher. And it's hard to say though. We don't really know yet.
Sure. Also, one more point to add in there. The spine on the MonsterArts one, it looks like it's the transparent, I guess the critical, whatever plastic is that they use for it. Whereas the higher one looks like it's not transparent. So those things, obviously, small things will add up on the cost, and I think will look a lot better in person. Right? Based on promo photos, I think the higher one does look nicer.
Yeah.
And at price point, great. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I think there's also
like,
less. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, as I mentioned earlier, like it's something that I really want to see in hand for the Monsterarts one, especially. There's been a few figures lately where being like, maybe not. And you see a person like, I need, like, it just looked so much better. Yeah,
Can I say something? I mean, in terms of the Haya, like I'm pretty confident in the Haya, like what we see in the photos, what we're gonna get, because like every time they've posted photos of their figures, and then once we get those figures in hand, they've pretty much been dead on, in my opinion. So Rob, you had this experience. So what do you think?
I'm in the same boat. I mean, I'm trying to think of a good example with a Haya figure. I mean, from Ghidorah to the original Rodan, it's like we got promos, and for the most part, say for like a few issues here and there, it was pretty much dead on.
Yeah.
So when I look at that Haya Shimo, I'm pretty confident that's more than likely what we're going to get.
Yes, I'm
definitely
pretty confident too about that.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Yeah. Now, now getting on to like a different conversation regarding this thing. I mean, like as I mentioned at the top of the stream, like, you know what I mean? Like whatever decision you make for yourself, that is the right decision for you. If you want to spend your money on this or not, that's you are making the right decision for you. You know what I mean? For me, I've already stated I am going to pick this up because I do like a bigger figure and stuff. It sucks that I have to pay so much money and things. Okay, but oh yeah, there's one thing that I forgot to mention that I do want to point out is that I am not thrilled about this build a figure method that S.H.Monsterarts is doing. Okay, like I didn't pick up that Kong, the new Empire Kong, because I was content with my other Kongs and things. I was like, okay, great. You know, I'm just gonna wait for the Beast Glove Kong. Oh, but now the Beast Glove Kong, we're getting the arm that comes with a Scar King. It's like, oh Jesus. So now I have to go out and get that Kong because I want that Beast Glove Kong. And then if I could technically use my other Kongs and stuff like that, but the color doesn't match and stuff like that, and now I have to paint it. I was like, oh, I'm just gonna go ahead and get that Kong then. You know what I mean? To save me the trouble. But I am not too thrilled about that build that Marvel Legends build a figure method. I'm not at all. What about you guys? Kyle, what do you think?
Yeah, so it's should not be a surprise to anyone that I made a video, it was pretty popular a little while back, talking about how, the reissue of Godzilla and Kong as the premier releases for the new Empire, that was meant to satisfy a market need. And if you didn't need the new Kong, if you were satisfied with your previous Godzilla, you could skip them totally fine, right?
Sure.
And then Scar King comes out with the Beast Glove, and it's like, okay, well, that is now not really true entirely. Though, thanks to Michael, we got some photos of what the new arm could look like on the old Kong, and I was like, okay, like I can live with that. Like the colors, there's enough yellow on the Beast Glove that it will distract away from the hues of browns not quite matching up. Okay, great. And then you get this the Kong with the broken tooth, the fixed tooth with Shimo, and it's just like, it's such a drag for a few reasons that I've talked about. One is that any hope of there being a more accurate Kong that uses the CG files is dashed, right? It's at this point, it's not happening.
No.
Right? So you had this strong debut, Godzilla Evolved, beautiful figure, uses something resembling the finalized CGI, sets a really strong precedent for the rest of the line. And then you get Scar King, not quite final. Okay, comes with the Beast Glove. It means you're not getting your revitalized Kong.
Yeah, you're not getting an updated Kong. Yeah, I thought we were gonna get it, but
like, what if you wanted Scar King, but you didn't really care about the Beast Glove? Well, it's not like the Beast Glove is free. They're baking that into the price of Scar King, and they're making you pay for it. So for someone like Moody who wanted the Beast Glove, the package makes sense. But what about for someone else who like only really wanted Scar King, right? Now the price is inflated by, you know, $15-20, which is a big deal. It's not, we're not talking chump change here, right? And now you lock the head with the synthetic tooth that Kong has for almost the whole movie, right? Because he only has the glove for like the last 25 minutes. You lock that head in with the $250 Shimo. It's really made me turn around on the approach here.
Yeah.
And I think it has made the inoffensive nature of that first Kong a little bit more precarious.
Yeah. Yeah. So, anybody got anything else to say?
Yeah. It has its place, and sometimes it works well, and it can be a good way to add one figure in with another, because they wanted to do everything in the first release, but maybe they couldn't for certain reasons, right? Maybe there wasn't enough mold space, maybe the cost was going to push up too much. But on this other figure, they had a bit more budget range, so they could shift a part over because, you know, maybe those characters are related. I feel that's probably what happened with the Kong and the glove. They wanted the Kong to be released with a movie. They had the previous one, they redid it for a cheap price so people can enter it. Cool. And okay, for the glove, we'll add it into Sky King because we only have him. That one, I'm okay with. It would have been nice to have a full base Kong with a glove as a separate release as well. That would have been good too. So either or.
Yeah.
I think the only one I don't like is the mouth with the tooth. I think that one should have come with the original release. It should have just been Kong with that tooth or with that head.
Yeah.
Because that faceplate is from the event exclusive Kong anyway, right?
Sure.
So maybe reuse the event exclusive Kong, put in the tooth, done, all good. I think that would have been a better approach. Yeah, I mean, people who want the gauntlet will want Sky King anyway, I feel. I think if you're going to buy a Kong with a glove, you'll want the Sky King because I feel those two go hand in hand a lot more.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know the Shimo with the mouth one, I think that one was a little bit disappointing.
Sure. Yeah. Anyways. Alrighty. So, anything else? Anybody had anything to say?
I wanted to touch back really quick on the higher pricing.
Okay.
Because I don't think it was mentioned. You know, something that seems to be lost in discussions out there, and maybe it's because a lot of people don't know about it, but, you know, between talking to Tamashii, Bandai, even I think with Kyle talking to Super7, you know, when it comes to China and what they charge manufacturers to make these things, you know, there's a cost when you're having another country go in. They take the, you know, whatever that higher currency is going to be, and that's what they kind of charge that whatever's going to be the most lucrative, right? But then there's also this other thing that's out there that isn't talked about, where the Chinese government kind of gives sponsorship. Well, I don't know what the right word to use for this was, but they kind of help give grants or funds or something like
Subsidies.
that. Yeah, there you go, subsidies to manufacturers in China that produce their own products in China. So it's part of why we see, you know, their figures being so much more affordable. I think that's part of it. It's not entirely part of like the entire reason, but I think that is a big contribution because Japan, they can't do a King Ghidorah figure for less than $100 or even at $100. They can't do that because of you got the depreciation of yen. You've got a whole bunch of different factors in there compared to, you know, what it costs to manufacture those things, and the prices keep going up for them on that end too. So there's just, I don't know, there's a lot stacked against other people going into the manufacturing process versus being done in-house, and I think that needs to be more discussed among people like us and other reviewers. Do their own research and kind of dig into it.
Sure.
Because I think that helps with understanding why these products might be just a little bit more cheaper, besides design, you know, articulation points. Factoring all that in there also counts, you know, for a lower price. And if you're not bringing in a sculptor and you're just using a straight CGI 3D scan, you're not paying an individual to really go in there, you know, and finesse things up like they do over there at Tamashii and Bandai. So
Sure.
something else to consider. And I think that Hiya in general is also a much smaller company compared to the giant corporate machine that is Bandai.
Oh, yeah.
There is much more overhead to pay for these things to be made through Bandai versus, I mean, even Super 7 too, right, Kyle? I don't know if you can hear me.
A lot of overhead. Super 7's relatively small, but they've
Yeah,
been,
that's what I'm saying. Is like they're small.
Yeah, they're starting to get a little bit bigger. They're starting to take on investments from bigger companies, but yeah, they're a little bit smaller.
Yeah. So just some food for thought for everybody to kind of marinate on out there. And if you've always just been asking, it's like, why is Shimo $50? I do think that the price is egregious for the Bandai Shimo, for Tamashii or for Monsterarts. It's really, really up there. It shouldn't be up there in the first place that high. That's my personal take on it. But there are just so many other factors that go into the process, though.
Sure.
Yeah.
Did you have something to say?
Oh yeah, I was going to say, like, the points which Mike's talking about now, like, we covered a lot of this in the stream we did earlier this year.
Yes,
talking about
we did.
the cost factors. And I reckon if you guys watching haven't seen it, I highly recommend checking out that stream. It was really good. Lots of good information.
Yeah.
And as you covered on, like, if you make internally in the China country, the government subsidized, that's why shipping from China outside is so cheap. It's because it's all heavily subsidized to increase their exports, right?
Sure.
And it all kind of goes into that. You support your own country, your own companies to manufacture, increase profit as well. And anyway, so you have that factor, and then obviously labor costs are a lot cheaper for a company, like compared to, like, as you mentioned, Japan, big company, but labor costs are a lot more high. You have, like, health insurance, pension, all these other factors that you have to pay for as well. And then if they're paying for, we kind of discussed this before the stream, it's not a Japanese IP per se. Okay, there's Toho side, but then maybe Legendary side as well, right? Which be maybe America's side, they'd pay in US dollars or an equivalent, right? So the horrible exchange rate moment for yen, that will highly increase the price as well.
Hold on a second. Isn't Legendary owned by a Chinese company, the Wanda Group?
Yeah, going to get to that point next, right? Yeah, so a lot of people asking, why do they have a CG and why doesn't Bandai? Perhaps that is why. You don't know, like, often you have, like, these different connections, right? If you're working with a company in your own country, maybe you know someone who knows someone, so you get those strong connections, or maybe you get the preference. And it could be a situation like that here. Like, I don't think anyone has that inside information or details, or it'll probably be made public anyway. But there's a lot of factors which go into the manufacturing of a product or any type of business case, which can drastically change the price, even if two people are essentially making the same product.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I think another good thing to look at as an example of just the cost to sell things from China that are made in China is just go look at Temu and AliExpress. Anything that's made there, look how cheap everything is compared to if you were to buy something similar here in the US or Japan or even in Canada. Like, everything is so much cheaper to buy. Like, it's like 2 cents here or 50 cents or $1.50, versus something that would be like $9.99 here or something, So it's just something to think about. Just everything that's made in China, distributed by China, is probably going to have a lower cost because of those subsidies.
Kyle?
Yeah, just we can pull an example that's even more directly tied to the toy industry from what Nathan was saying. Like, I don't know how familiar you guys are with this new up and coming company called Ramen Toy, but one of the things that they've been doing is taking, like, products that have failed to meet, like, HasLab minimum backers, or like the NECA sewer layer for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that was like $300. People were very unhappy with it, and Ramen Toy is basically like, hey, we'll make those. We'll skirt through all the licensing stuff, right? We'll avoid all that, but we'll get you these figures at, like, or we'll get you these toys at $100, $200 cheaper than what the big companies are trying to sell it to you for. Like, and they're based out of China. Like, to Nathan's point, like, they have those connections, and then they can get it to you for cheaper than what the domestic companies are selling it to you for. So, like, yeah, there's definitely a factor here as high as country of origin.
Yeah.
And like another, just for the toys and the pricing point coming from China to what I was mentioning about shipping before. So I sometimes pick up some Transformers, right? And you see it's like, okay, this is the price. Free shipping to US. And, when I pick Japan, it's actually cheaper. It's like minus $5, minus $10. So I get a discount because it's even cheaper again. Like, it's like, okay, so if it was free shipping in the first place, it's like, yeah. It's like the cost for them to ship stuff out is like ridiculously cheap compared to other countries, or there's so many different kickbacks or benefits that they get for, different, parts of the operation.
Mike Monsters.
The point about the China companies talking to each other is a very good point. We don't know when so-and-so got assets or anything like that. And the way figures are made, it's usually about 2 years from start of production to the point where it gets on the shelf or in someone's hand. So we could have easily had someone at Hiya talking to someone at Legendary, and they got all the assets. And that's why Shimo looked so accurate to the point where it was way before the movie even came out, I believe, or right after the movie came out. And Japan didn't. But I also think there's a factor in, with all of these figures being bunched together, this is a little bit of a backtrack, the pieces at least being bunched together for Kong, I think Japan wasn't expecting this movie to do as well as it did across the world. And the MonsterVerse movies have all kind of performed not as well. And the same thing with -1. They didn't make a lot of those figures because they didn't expect the movie to be as groundbreaking as it was. And from my understanding, we don't have a reissue of that coming anytime soon, unless it's going to be a new take on the figure possibly. So there's a whole lot of factors, right? What's up, Nathan?
Yeah. So the ratio is basically the black and white version.
Right, exactly. And it's
a quick, easy thing they do without making a whole new one. Yeah.
Exactly. So there could have been a completely different timeline for Hiya than S.H.Monsterarts, and then Monsterarts wasn't given the same exact assets as Hiya. So there's, unfortunately, we're probably never gonna know, and that's the challenge here. Unless
I'm gonna ask them. I'm gonna ask them.
I know you're gonna.
I'm gonna be there. I'm gonna be there at Comic-Con. So I'm gonna get up in Hiya's grill. I'm gonna be saying, "Yo, what's up?" No,
yeah. So
I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna walk up in there with a big old coat. I'm gonna just go. Psh, you see this right here? You got some answering to do.
Holy shit!
So this comment,
no, but I do intend on talking to them though for a little bit. I want to pick their brains and kind of see what's going on behind the scenes to see if they'll be a little divulging about that kind of information. So we'll see.
Yeah. And even when I was working at Bandai and I was talking to the Tamashii guys every once in a while, I worked at the company and they'd still not tell me things. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
Like this stuff is secret for a reason, And it's like, I'm not defending them for their flubs either, because like I said, they've had misses before, but there is as a Japanese company, they have their honor, they have their ways of doing things, and they do keep their secrets and they try to keep it close to the chest.
Yeah. Just one point to add on what you were mentioning as well. The figures, they start being created like about 2 years in advance, right? Essentially. At least I think the main turnaround is about 18 months, I believe they said, through the different planning process, back and forth, factory checks, this, that. Okay. Now, Bandai is a big company, and sometimes it's a pro, sometimes it's a con. But when you're a big established company, you have your procedures, you have your flow where you have to do this work, you get it checked by this person, and you follow that. Okay, so maybe they had the original details, they'd already gone through a process, so they've stuck to it. Whereas Hiya, maybe a smaller company, you can be a bit more flexible, like, oh, we've done this, oh no, change, throw it out, we start again. Oh, we skip this step, skip that, we can go around. It's also why the Godzilla -1 was so good. They kind of got rid of that main structure. Right? He just went as a single small team, the director going back and forth from the VFX and change it up in whichever direction they need it on the fly, right? So when you work as a small team versus a big team or a global company or a big structure, you have these flexibilities which can often be a big pro, but sometimes there's cons as well. And I think in this case, maybe the structure of Bandai and the way they handle their business kind of limits what they can and can't change, which for us at this point led to a higher, less accurate figure. But
Yeah, and the movie Monster Series versus SHMA, they don't talk to each other often. Like they are all one company, but they are different departments. It's like when you're working at a Target or something like that, you got the electronics department, you got the pharmacy. They probably never talk to each other. They don't need to talk to each other. Yes, they're under the same company, but it's not the same team working on things. And they might also have different assets. They might have the more accurate assets for the movie Monster Series, and then SHMA didn't. That's the honest truth right there.
It's possible.
Yeah.
It's entirely possible.
Yeah.
I feel like people take, especially in regards to Shimo and everything, I feel people take it very, very far and very, very personally, as if the company is purposefully trying to shutter you out of a purchase. And it's like, so much goes into it. So much goes into even just shipping something out, making a box, the whole plastic shell to it and everything. And it's quite ridiculous.
Yeah, it really is. Like talking to Kyle from Super7, that first video we did together, one of the things he said, it is a fucking miracle that any toys end up on any shelf.
Yeah. And finally, to finish this off, like, so we can move on. I mean, again, just to reiterate what I said earlier, I mean, whatever decision you make for yourself is the right one for you. And if you see someone making a decision contrary to yours, they're not wrong. Okay, they're making the decision for themselves. Okay, but what I have a problem with lately, especially with one in particular individual, you know who I'm talking about, Kyle, and you guys, all right, is calling people stupid because they want this thing. You know what I mean? That's out of line. You know what I mean? And I called that person out. So anyways, it's absolutely ridiculous. And then to say, oh, I'm the reason, people like me, I'm the reason why we're getting shit stuff. You know what I mean? They focus the blame. You know what I mean?
That's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's just you, Harold.
Yeah,
it's all your fault, man. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, blame me.
And remember, this is all over toys. These are toys.
These are toys.
We're all adults here.
What do you mean, man? That's serious business.
I mean, you're not wrong.
I mean, at the end of the day, 27,000 yen. It's expensive for some people. For other people, it's like cents. I mean, I feel like this figure was probably made with the core collectors of Monsterarts in general, and for them, they're older, they've got money. It may be a bit expensive, but it's probably not that expensive at the end of the day. And they wanted to probably do the best job that they thought they could, or what they thought their fans wanted, and that's what they've gone all in. It's bigger, maybe the finish, or if it's add up in the cost, but thought, hey, the core people that want it will buy it. And that's it. Here's a one done deal for this one for those that want it. And at the end of the day, if you can afford it and you like it, buy it. If not, get an alternative.
Don't get anything that you know that you're not gonna like. You know what I mean? Like that.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the shittiest.
Oh, preach,
you know what I mean?
Harold, preach! Holy shit!
That is a huge issue right now. There are some people that call them. They're acting like they're martyrs, and they're buying the figures for the sake of a review to say that I'm saving everybody else's purchase, and then they get mad at the purchase. It's like, come on, dudes or dudettes, depending on who's doing it. Yeah, don't spend the money, and you're not doing it. You're doing it for your YouTube ad revenue, most likely, to be honest. And so you're gonna probably not take much of a hit in the first place. So you're not saving anything for anybody. Like, I just want to see the figure in someone's hands moving around. I don't need your opinion on it most of the time. Just show me what it looks like, and if there is an issue, point out the issue. But come on.
Yeah.
There's also, if I see a lot of people saying, "Oh, Tamashi's going to lose so much money on this," it's like, dude, these are made to order in Japan. They're made to order. What money will be lost? It's literally made to order. So, and Bandai's not stupid here either. They're going to search social media. They're going to see how many people are, what their people are saying out here. And here's another thing to consider too for everybody. Retailers, smaller retailers, they see what everybody's talking about. And there are certain retailers that do not elect to pick up product to sell because they're like, well, everybody says this is a crap thing. They're not going to buy it. I don't want to take that risk and have it sit on my shelf. So, you know, there's smaller. It's just smaller retailers. We're not talking about Amazon or Big Bad Toy Store. We're talking about like, you know, things like Xavier Cow Customs or something like that, Toku Collectibles, those smaller stuff. So just to kind of keep that in mind, you know, when you're doing your criticisms out there, you know, it's okay to be criticized. It's okay to be critical. I don't want anybody to take away that I'm saying don't be critical. Be critical.
Yeah, be critical. And
Just don't
be critical.
Yeah,
but don't be an ass. Yeah, don't be an asshole about it.
There's a difference between being critical and then being insulting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The fine
if you
line.
think, I want to put all the viewers that are watching this, you know, just in this mindset. If you go onto my social media or in Bandai's or anybody else's that where these companies watch, and you go in and you're just like, F this figure, F you company, you need to do better. That's not constructive criticism. That's just something that is a simple swipe. You're wasting your time.
I was the guy that ran that account, and I would see those comments and ignore you. I'm sorry to call it out, but I was just like, all right, we've got a child in the chat. We're going to ignore them. They probably couldn't afford the figure anyways or something.
Instead of, so like I get it. If you don't like a figure, definitely voice why you don't like it, but just be respectful about it. You just, if you really want to make an impact with a company beyond voting with your wallet, just be cordial with your criticism.
Yeah.
That's all. That's all you have to do.
Talk to people like that in public, in front of them, like you wouldn't.
I think of it like as I went to photography school and I had teachers that were really harsh and really intense, but they were never to the point where they were insulting us. And if there was an insult, it was coming from the student who didn't like the critique. But if they did insult us, there was nothing valuable coming from that. We wouldn't be able to learn as photographers and grow from that. But I did have one teacher rip a photo in half in front of the whole class, and then he pulled me aside and said, I did that because I know you could do better. And I was like, well, I don't know if that helped, but that that teacher didn't really help me much after that, you know, like, and so but it woke up the entire class. Like sometimes you got to make a point, but that's not by being aggressive like that. It's not by sending insults or saying Bandai's dying. I mean, Bandai's making more profits than they've ever made in their entire time. So you can't say that their numbers are going up, and they're not choosing to make bad figures. There's never a choice to do that. No. They want to make good figures, and they are proud of what they do. Some people might think that's silly.
They are very proud.
They're very proud of what they do, and they're very proud of the status they've built. Yeah, exactly.
Right. I managed talking quite a bit, and like what you're saying about the feedback, like they take the comments seriously. They look at it and take it back. So if you're not giving constructive criticism or feedback, like maybe you don't want to buy something, say, hey, this looks cool, I'm not going to buy it because XYZ reason. That's valid and that works. Valid. You know, like saying, hey, this is really cool, I wish it kind of had blah 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 instead, then I would really want it, or maybe this direction would be nicer. Leaving that feedback, they'll take it and relay it back to the product lead and that team. And then, it's probably too late for this figure. It's already done. Cool. But at least future releases, you can hopefully give that feedback so they'll be improved. And as Mike Monster was saying, they're proud. They want to do a good job. Yeah, they may screw up. They may fail at times. But, you know, we can't always be perfect, right? So...
And I believe they're mostly taking most critique from the Japanese audience. I could be wrong on that, but like we did at the American side did take those screenshots and send them over if there was constructive criticism. But most of the time, not all the time, and not right now. I mean, the Japanese audience is agreeing that this figure is expensive, but a lot of them are kind of laughing at the response they're giving over here. And it's like they're saying that we're being overreactive to it. And I would agree with that.
Definitely. Definitely. That might be putting it too nicely.
So, Mike, like we were talking about this before, but I mentioned in my video earlier today, I was like, like, you know, I haven't seen very much positivity on the Western side at all. Like one comment. But the Japanese side, like they seem to like the design a little bit, but you know, there's some distaste for the price. And someone, as a point of constructive criticism, said that I was engaging in the spread of misinformation because Japanese Twitter is not happy about Shimo. That I was cherry picking the tweets in which people were happy with Shimo. So, you know, I have definitely seen more Japanese tweets that were happy with the figure than I have seen American comments.
It's also been less than. I mean, it's now hit the 24-hour mark. I mean, it's not like it's like. I mean, it's been 24 hours, guys. Come on.
Yeah, yeah.
we got time to let everybody marinate.
Yeah. So like, let me just throw it out there that if I make the statement that, it seems like what I'm observing is that people are mostly okay with this. It doesn't exclude the folks that are unhappy with this. It's just that I am seeing at least some positive comments, way more from the eastern side than the western side.
And the algorithm feeds you what you want to see sometimes.
Yes, if you are clicking on the comments, translating the comments that are unhappy, you will see more unhappy comments.
Yeah, because I've seen very positive ones. I think I've only seen 2 negative from the Japanese audience and mostly positive from the rest. And I've seen other people posting comments that I haven't seen pop up on my feed because of that's how my algorithm works.
Yeah.
Like I was talking with my Japanese mate about it as well, discussing it, and like we kind of go on a bit of a tangent about the price and other figures in general. And I think one main factor, I guess, for us in Japan is prices have gone up quite a bit due to the yen. Not just for Monsterarts, but Figuarts, Amazing Yamaguchi, Mafex, and then if you're importing from overseas, it's really expensive. And even where he's like, this hobby is kind of getting a little bit less fun, before it'd be like getting your figure, open up, do your stuff, maybe take photos. Now it's like, I feel a bit guilty spending this much money on this now.
Right?
So I'm kind of curious how things will go over the next 6-12 months as well with more people. If the prices keep being high for these figures here in Japan, are we going to see less releases? Will they try to drop prices down, but the companies also have to make their profit?
Well, here's the thing, though. Like, we know this. I mean, like, just look at the economic situations around you, or in your neighborhood, around the world, and things. But like, for people doing in the review space, they complain about the price. Like, oh, how is it? Like, do you not know what it's like right now? You know what I mean? Like, they're still expecting, it seems to me that they're still expecting for these figures to remain the same price forever. And that's just unrealistic. You know, like I was talking to somebody online saying that, if this were a $40 or $60 figure, I would consider. I go, you are being absolutely unrealistic if you want
the Monsterarts Shimo?
Be a Monsterarts Shimo to be $40, $60.
Oh man, I mean, I would love that too.
Who wouldn't? I mean, who
absolutely?
But then the
Monsterarts $40 figure. Whew.
If you're trying to bankrupt Bandai, that's how you do it.
Then Bandai's profits go in the negative at that point.
They would be paying. They would be paying money to send it here.
Yeah. Sure. I mean, I remember when I bought a NECA figure back when NECA started making Predators. I think I got them for like $18. Now they're pushing $40.
Yeah.
If that,
that's
maybe
true,
more. Like,
even more.
Everything's everything's gone up. It's not just one company that's doing it. Everybody's
put a cap on. Do you need to get through?
Oh, we can hear you, Michael.
Oh, sorry.
No, it's just gone up across the board. Like everybody's dealing with it, not just Bandai.
Yeah.
And like those Predators used to come with the same exact amount of accessories and stuff too, back when they were those prices, and they're still now just like, I have to question, do I want that one bad enough? Like,
it definitely is getting to that point. Like, how much do I really like this? Okay, but I've also had like maybe these 5 other figures I want to get, or other ones coming in. It's like gets to a point. It's like, okay, this one I'll definitely have to pass on instead. Due to the price increase, and I'm curious how that is definitely going to affect. Not the sales, but if things aren't selling as well in general, will they be a bit more selective in what does get released? But let's
so all in all, like, we're not totally happy with this whole situation with the Shimo thing.